Hello, welcome to Conversations for the Moving Self. I am your host, Megan, a lifelong movement artist and facilitator. Each week, I invite you inside of the honest conversations that I have been having with some incredibly inspiring movement and well-being practitioners, as we unpack the beautiful roller coaster it is to pursue a lifestyle built around movement and well-being. Join us as we share and reflect on the moments where movement lights your soul on fire, to the situations where you begin to question everything. Welcome to episode 20 of Conversations for the Moving Self. Today we have Kelly Lynch here, who I'm so excited to have. Kelly holds a foundation in ballet and contemporary performance, and as a former professional dancer and movement educator, she works at the intersection of artistry, physiology, and long-term well-being. She's performed with various artists and companies all over, including Royal Battle, Streb Extreme Action, Complexions Contemporary Ballet, Earl Mosley's Diversity of Dance, Carolyn Adams, and so much more. She teaches ballet, contemporary technique, recovery, and health to dancers across the US and internationally. Also holds a master's degree in exercise science and has a background in creative arts and dance therapy. Alongside all of that, she's a personal trainer, health coach, hormone health specialist, women's coaching specialist, and prenatal and postnatal corrective exercise specialist. Informed by strength training, performance science, myofascial-based practices, and nervous system aware recovery, her work today through her private practice Restore Your Body and her role as senior health coach at Life Force allows her to integrate performance training, recovery, and integrative health to support dancers and high-achieving movers to build strength, recovery, intelligence, and develop sustainable practices that allow rigor and excellence to coexist with care, both in the studio and throughout their lives. And I'm so excited to have Kelly here. We had the opportunity to connect through my home dance studio, Academy for the Performing Arts, which has just been such a special space, and to meet a lovely human like Kelly through this has been super exciting, and just to see how she holds this duality between rigor and care has just been something that I'm so excited about, and so excited for all of the movers that get to interact with her. Every time I interact with Kelly, her passion for movement and care alongside each other just exudes from her and brings a vibrancy to the space that I feel super lucky to have on the episode today. So thanks,
Yeah,
Kelly.
I'm so excited, Megan. Let's do it.
Today, let's open the same way as we do for every episode. I'd just like to ask you how today you're showing up for your movement and well-being practice for yourself.
Oof. Honestly, girl, this is a very loaded question because I am recently coming out of retirement to perform. And so this new space is weird and I'm so much more aware of my own body now that I'm like, no, I can't move quite like that anymore. And if I do, I feel it like 2 days later, 3 days later, a week later. So there's like it's a couple different ways. Today specifically, I had an audition yesterday, and where I was actually selected, mind blowing, because if they had the conversation or if they were part of the conversation with my husband before that, I was like, this is stupid. I'm too old for this. And I was like, okay, I'm going in now. And that was literally how I showed up for that. But I am just being a lot more open and honest with myself as I approach movement, and really trying to listen. I have a problem of overdoing things, maybe a little bit. And so even just today, I trained two clients, and I was like, I think we're just going to stretch today. And I don't know if you need it more or I need it more. Luckily, both of my clients were sick, so it was perfect timing. So trying to balance the the desire and to the passion to like move my body again in that kind of space, but also realizing that I can't do that quite as much, and even teaching recovery and all of that, I'm like, maybe I should listen to the things that I talk about a lot more and apply them to myself, which is so much harder. So it's an interesting space to be in, really. It's been really weird. I didn't think I was ever going to come out of retirement. So
Think what stood out to me, like listening, also is just this thing that's easy to forget when it's us in the moment, but that like it is way more complex than it sounds, and equally that we're all having these ups and downs. Even as you explained, like before the audition, there was this moment of like, how, what am I doing? But it's quite nice actually, because I imagine a lot of people are having that moment for a different circumstance,
yeah.
like for each person, but to normalize that feeling. And so thank you for sharing and being transparent and open about it.
Oh,
And
always.
yeah, like also exciting about coming back and
Oh, girl.
sending you all the
I'm
pictures
still like,
and stuff.
I don't, it's also like a very technical ballet piece. So we'll see how that goes.
Step by step, by step.
With only four other humans on the stage, it's gonna be fine.
But I also there's something you said also about like your body, you know yourself so much more, which also will bring like a really nice element to it as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's even in class. So yesterday's audition was really funny because she is a technical ballet dancer choreographer. We did a 45-minute ballet bar, and I was really like, oh, I'll just go to this because I never get to take people's ballet class. And so I was like, I'm just gonna go and take this class. This is me psyching myself up for this. I was like, I'm just gonna go take class. I never get to take other people's ballet class. It's fine. But even in like standing at bar of very familiar things, I mean, I teach a badass ballet class and I know I do, but as soon as I am taking someone else's, I'm like, what is happening in my body? And she comes over and she's like, are you nervous? I was like, I don't know what's happening. She's like, me either. I was like, great. Okay, fantastic. And so that was like, so we started. I was like, this Chandu combination made zero sense. I was like, it would have been the same combination that I would have made, but it was not happening. And just like realizing that I can't grombat mom, my leg is high anymore, but it's like the intention. Now I'm thinking of like the scoop and the down and out. And now all of that is going into my brain instead of like, let me get my head, my foot to my head or things like that. So it was really weird being in that audition space and having more of that teacher self brain because that really hasn't happened before. And I was like, this is too many thoughts in this head right.
A lot of thoughts where even like I'm 2 weeks away from the students I'm teaching, like first competition of the year. And we've
Uh,
been talking a lot about like the checklist of thoughts and how to like, yes, we've now identified the hugeness of it, but how to compartmentalize that when you need to. And
yeah,
I was saying to them today over and over, like, it's not as easy as I'm saying it right now. It's when it's me, I get it. Like, I'm just gonna
yeah,
keep telling you guys I'm aware that I'm asking you something big.
yeah, yeah. It's so
And it's
hard.
true, like when you're the student, it's a different thing.
It
And
is.
then yeah, once you've been preaching all the things to someone, and then you're like, okay, now it's my turn. It's
Yeah,
another different thing.
yeah. Very,
But
very.
cool. I'm excited to see though. Yeah,
Can't
I
wait.
guess that's maybe a really nice moment to lead into. I would love to hear a little bit more about what brought you into movement originally. Was it dance? Was it through something else? Your journey into movement and the story, how it's evolved over time. It doesn't need to be super in depth, but
I'll give you some brief highlights.
yeah.
I'll give you the overview. Yeah, I started dance probably like many other humans, like when I was like 2 or 3. And I still very much remember that teacher. My mom put me in a class. They didn't have a like dancing for toddlers class or anything like that yet. So she threw me in the youngest class, which was like first graders. And there's like this picture of me and Miss Barbara was a former Rockette. And so she was all spunk, all short hair, living her best life. There's a picture of me like this wee little tiny thing in like a class of like first graders. And I still remember her. She was still teaching up until she passed away not too long ago, with all of her spunky self. And so at a very young age, I was always pushed to be, I was always with the older kids. I just had that like mentality. And also that kind of like drive, probably also, which also stays with me now. But there was a certain period in my time in while I was training throughout high school where I was kind of using it as an escape as well, which I didn't really notice until I was much older, where it was like my place to be, not tied to anything. My parents were going through a divorce and things like that, and it was a weird dynamic. And I was like, oh, I just have dance. Just I can just go to dance. I can just throw myself into dance. I can just this is it. This is what I'm doing. Um, and I managed to be pretty good at it, I guess. And so I was one of the youngest in our ballet company growing up. And then I discovered modern dance, and whew, boy, did that open my eyeballs, because I was such a little tiny prima ballerina for a very long period of time. And I went to a program called the New York School of the Arts, Summer School of the Arts. And I met Robert Battle, and I was in his piece when I was 14 years old. And there was five of us, and it was Battleworks. And I remember being in our first like rehearsal, space for that piece. And this goddess, her name is Erica Pujic, former Juilliard, Dance with Robert Battle, just goddess, was like, okay, we have to try this move because you're going to have to do it in about 4 weeks. And you launch yourself across the space in a jump into like an arch and then throw yourself all the way onto the floor, with your legs shooting out in front of you. And so that was our first rehearsal, was working up the guts to coming from a prima ballerina. I was like, no, oh no, oh no. Sure, that, and that was like that moment where that she was like, sometimes we select people based off of like how we can push people. I was like, uh-huh. And somehow I managed to get there in 4 weeks, and Robert and I are still very close, and he still pushes me. He's like, yes, you're going to go do that audition. But then I kind of went, as I grew up, I kind of got a little bit more, it felt like the more I got out of touch with my body, like going through college and things like that, the more heavily I kind of went back into ballet because it felt safe. Which again didn't notice until I was much older. But doing things with complexions, doing things with much more ballet based companies, because it felt safe to me. I knew all of these things. It was part of my body, where I wasn't quite able to handle the outgoing types of things. And then within a couple of years of doing that, while I was getting my master's, I realized how mentally I was not safe in that space. And it was very toxic for me very quickly. And so like I had like kind of not stopped dancing, but I got into much more personal training, into I finished my master's in exercise science, and I was like, this is a great blend of not a lot of dancers going to that. They normally go to PT, but how to like strengthen dancers and recovery and all of that. Which is, I felt like a really nice segue for me. I was like, maybe this is it. And I did like a couple side projects where I met Mr. Mosley, and he's awesome, and a lot of energy and a lot of just like really good vibes. I did a small project called Jenna Parker's project, where we worked with women who had been sexually abused and putting stories into movement. And that felt really safe, like just amazing for me as with a background in dance therapy. And so I wasn't really sure if I was going to come back to like the real dance world. And then my friend was the company manager for Streb Extreme Action. And she was like, hey, we're having an audition for 3 days. Why don't you just like come and mess around for 3 days, jump on a trampoline, do what I like, just, I feel like you just like really need to get out of your mental headspace. And I was like, sure. Uh-huh. Yep. This sounds great. Yep. So I went and did that for 3 days, and came out, and I was like, she did not just call my name. I was just here like messing around on some mats, like flying through space, much older than everyone in that room. But she taught me how to fly. She kind of had that little bit of like 14-year-old Kelly learning how to jump and land on the floor all over again kind of passion. And that was when like the whole recovery space and having to change my body from being this prima ballerina to now this like person that needs a lot of strength to hold people and objects and machinery, and that transformation mentally, not only physically, but I was like, 90 pounds, 100 pounds soaking wet most of my life to being like 140 pounds of muscle, is like very different. Um, but through that, and obviously because of a lot of impact, I got very into like recovery, myofascial release, like mental health after throwing yourself onto a floor. This is a safe space. I'm fine. Like all of that. And then I had two babies. I left Streb and I was done with Streb and moved out to San Diego for some fun. Got really into myofascial release, worked with the WEC Method Lab. He's the creator of the Bosu ball. And he's all about how the spine moves naturally to help movement. And I was like, fascinated. Applied that to pregnant women because when we get pregnant, we start to waddle and the spine doesn't move, and dove into that world. And so met this crazy, amazing Mexican PT. She was like, if something hurts, you have to move it. You have to just do your thing. You have to dig into it. You have to be in that space, where I just learned so much. And now back here, I get to like combine kind of all of that, where I'm teaching and now I have the ability to teach recovery for dancers and what that looks like, and we're doing myofascial release and just so many things that I wish we did an hour and a half class on a mental health workshop with 30 of them a couple of weeks ago, and they did fantastic, like amazing. And everyone participated, and it was just like so good. And it feels amazing to combine all of that, because if I had all of that knowledge, or just someone being like, hey, you're using this as an escape, maybe you shouldn't, it maybe would have changed, some choices in my life. But so it feels like a really good, you said short, that was not short. I didn't condense that at all.
Pretty short. It was just it didn't have to. No, it was open. No, it was super nice, and I found out so much about you too.
Okay.
But I love it. But uh, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I'm like I just I could keep listening for days, but uh, yeah, it's cool to hear how one thing led to another as well, because I think like we know this, but like one job or something will like just implant little seeds, and slowly
Mhm.
these things are growing. And I know that I'm someone still, but definitely at certain points of my life, I would say now too, I'm like always thinking 10 steps in the future, which
Um,
is great, but like how to be like, whoa, it's all happened. Like things are building in a way that you aren't even
yeah.
aware of, and just keep doing the thing and whatever. But
Yeah. There's like, when I was able to like select projects that I wanted to be a part of, and not because it was a company I wanted to be with or people, yes, I wanted to dance with them, but it was also like a space that I creatively, mentally, physically wanted to be in. Like I wanted to work with Mr. Mosley, and the environment that he creates in diversity of dance is huge. Like people dance with him forever, and he'll just call you and be like, hey, I'm creating this. You want to come in? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And like having like a deeper project with Jenna Parker was huge, because that was so much of what I did in my undergrad. And but being able to select that work and not feel like I have to do it, but have it be an option to me, um, was so new. And I think
Mhm.
that gave me a voice in what I wanted to do with dance, which is very different. And I think as dancers, we kind of get tossed to projects and this, and oh, this is here, and I'm like, no, I want to do this. I am signing up for this.
You
um
choose.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, which is very different. Especially growing up, I was like, oh, I'm good at this, I'm using it as an escape, this is healthy, I'll just go here, I'll just be gone most of the
Like,
summer. It's like
yeah.
it just slowly collects, and for me to be like, no, I don't want to do that, and for me to be like, yeah, I do want to jump on a trampoline and fall on my face for a little bit, and Like those are all things that I chose to do, not because I had to do them or felt like I needed to do them.
Mm. And it made me think of two different things. I'm going to try and
Yeah.
remember both. But one of them being like this thing that I think when at times I think in the dance world it can feel like there's still a little bit of this conversation of like you can dance but only for so long, and
Mm,
that it then becomes like the one chapter has to end when the other
yeah.
begins, and
Yeah.
that actually you can like one chapter can quiet and then the other can increase, like, but it can be up to you as well, and it can look in the obviously yes, okay, things happen, our bodies evolve, but like that journey can be something that you can have autonomy over
Yeah.
through making intentional choices and through, yeah, putting the energy where you want it to be. And yeah, so that was my first thing. And the second
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah. Yeah. I was leading into my audition yesterday. I was saying that I'm in my Lindsey Vonn era, where I'm coming back to dance being strong, no matter how many ruptured ACLs I have. That like I am gonna go and show up for myself. But that's also maybe because I've been watching too many Olympics, too much Olympics. That's a little slight little problem.
I mean, even today I was like saying to the kids like, oh, but did you see that this one person did this, and like trying to use it as
Don't
metaphors,
even
and they
get
were
me
looking at
started.
it, and I was like, but you
I'm like,
have to watch
what?
it.
You didn't see the dual mogul guy finish backwards? Yes, I did.
Yeah. Well, and even like this is that's the other thing I was gonna say was
Yeah,
like the permission also that you can just do something for fun and let it evolve in the way that it wants to.
yeah,
But like you can go to Streb and just jump around for a few days, and
yeah,
if you want, pursue that further. But like it also doesn't have to
yeah.
be some like strategic thing all the time.
No,
It exists because it's fun.
yeah,
And that's okay. And then
because it's something you never wanted to thought about doing.
yeah, and then like maybe because that energy is more authentic, like that could be the reason it led you to a further
Yes,
with it. You never know. But
I
yeah,
know.
thank you for sharing. I loved listening.
Yeah,
Because ballet was such a big part of your training and is still such a big part of your practice and your world in dance, like there is this thing, this association with ballet and discipline and perfection and yeah, the certain like norms that come in that space, or like yeah, expectations that I think sometimes I feel it's starting to creep away out of the studio more
yeah,
than maybe
yeah,
society is perceiving, but like I think it still exists a lot in conversation and in society and in certain
yeah.
spaces. And what does that, s- because I've actually never finished a ballet class with you because every time I'm home and try to
I know.
circle,
Every
I
time
never
you're home,
get
you
to
take
take
like
it.
a combo and then you get pulled away.
Oh, okay, bye. But like I feel even in that space, and for the listeners, my sister is a diehard fan of Kelly's ballet classes and
The
likes
only
to
reason she moves up in school, I swear.
likes to gatekeep her privates to herself when she's home. But like when I'm around Kelly's ballet spaces, like they feel very clearly rooted in both continuing to progress and equally prioritizing care. And so I wonder what that dialogue looks like for you when you're trying to create the space, and how do you try to aim to create that?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. When you go to a ballet class, you're just like, I'm I'm here. I have to all of a sudden for some forsaken reason, you go in, it doesn't even have to be like a full there's a ballet bar out, all of a sudden you're like this whole another person. And not that that person can exist in that space. But I distanced myself from ballet for a pretty long time, because of that, because of that mental aspect, and just because all of a sudden it embodied me, kind of like a choking situation, but it was fine. But I had this, I worked at Gibney Dance Center in New York for a long time, And there's a phenomenal teacher by the name of Janet Panetta, who passed away a couple of years ago, and she teaches ballet for contemporary dancers. And I started to fly again. She was all about what, like, working within your facility, and that, yes, your ballet person can still look like in this body, but you can also soar across the like entire floor, and your grommet mods don't have to be high, but you can feel them moving in their socket. And there was just like so much more anatomical things that just like made sense. And the energy in that class was just pure joy, pure like people that were like rooted in ballet but became contemporary or movers. I would go with another Streb dancer. I would go with my friend Sam, and we would just like soar through space. And that's the energy that I want to bring into my ballet classes. So I come from, and having a master's in exercise science, I do come from like a very anatomical ballet class. I'm like, if this doesn't feel right on your body, don't do it. Or like ask me and be like, how can I make this facility, like, I want to do this. I want to get my alcicon a little bit higher and a little bit stronger. And I don't know, I'm only gripping on the front side. And I'm also teaching about things that like feel bad. Like, yeah, we shouldn't be gripping all in our hip flexors, and my neck and my shoulders shouldn't be all the way up. And what are our lat muscles and how can they help me support my core, and things that
Mm.
they don't necessarily need in the ballet world that they can take because, well, APA, but APA is we're not there to take ballet. We're there for the technique and so you have to kind of mold that to be, how can they flourish in this environment, and actually take the things that I'm teaching outside of this classroom. Because I feel like, yes, ballet helps us in the technique world, but I feel like it's very segmented, right? We're like, okay, my grand battement or my dégagé, or I'm going to do this in the center, but we don't realize that your grand battement takes you to your leap, or it takes you to your tilt, or literally anything else. And so I really try and make that very relatable. And um, I always say in my class, I don't care how high your leg is if I can see you work through it. And if it's not fun anymore, then don't lift your leg. Or if you squint when you lift your leg, that's not okay. Where like when I was growing up, I'm like, if you weren't squinting when you were lifting your leg, there's something wrong with you. And
Yeah.
and so I want, I remember one of the other teachers coming in and being like, so they saw like a tendu combo and they were like, what on earth was that? And I was like, first of all, they're off of 3 days of competition. They're coming back. I just threw like a crazy weird combo at them where they had to alternate feet, and like they're already disconnected with their body and exhausted from coming off a competition. And I do it just to shake them up. I'm not doing it to actually look like a combination whatsoever. They just need to get out of a funk of just being exhausted. And so like sometimes I play weird music, and sometimes I do it a lot based off of like how they are as well, to an extent. Sometimes they're real lazy and they're like, Callie, can we do some like stretching today? I'm like, no. But
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I take that into consideration because I want them to be mentally present as much as physically. And if mentally being present means that they're going to mess up the combo, fine. If they're like, this is all I can give today, fine. Whatever that looks like, but I want them, no matter what, coming out of my class feeling good, feeling like they took something out of it, which I think is I approach classes very differently. Like I can go in with one plan and they can all be like, maybe they have crazy amount of energy. And I'm like, okay, I got to rework my combos because we're going to do lots of dégagés, maybe throw in some turns today. Or like we're focused for some reason. So, so
yeah.
I try and adapt my class and be on my feet whenever that happens, and mostly making it a safe space so that,
Mm.
with their body and their brain, um, because they're not trying to be prima ballerinas. Maybe they
Yeah.
are secretly. In that
In
case,
order.
then I hope they get everything from us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The notion around prioritizing all sides of the being
Mhm.
in order for them to show up stood out to me, and I think is something that I feel I really connected to as well through a contemporary ballet teacher, and she had also worked in worked with Batsheva a lot, and like through Gaga, then like did a lot of Gaga infused ballet, like in using
Yeah.
this technology. And when you
Yeah.
were speaking around like just the changing the way that you can phrase things, or like it made me think of this idea of even just like I'm not gonna articulate it in the way I want to, but the way that we talk, we humans talk about like when you can provide something in a way that is like an invitation in a positive direction rather than like a don't do this, don't do that, that it
Yeah.
can allow something to work more efficiently or more softly or like
Yeah.
more naturally, which was
Yeah.
one thing that I thought of when you were speaking. And I think for someone who I was definitely not heading towards a prima ballerina route, that kind of language I found super, super beneficial as a person who still wanted, like, still saw all the
Yeah.
benefits and enjoyed ballet when I had that space around me. And then equally this thing of being able to just show up with the lens of like, okay, I have my plan and this is the intention, but equally I have to meet them where they're at because otherwise I'm fighting
Yes.
a broken machine, essentially.
Yeah.
Like we're beating the wall instead of like being able to allow them to get what they can out of this class instead of trying to
Yeah.
force them to achieve the thing I wanted them before I saw
Yeah.
them today to
Yeah.
get. And
Yeah.
even this thing of like just shaking up the energy, like I have a close friend and mentor that I work with a lot in a teaching space. And he has this idea around just like jumping at the beginning of class, like not a jumping exercise, but like
Yeah.
just a few, like, lifting your energy in every space to be like, well, what are you holding that you don't need? Where are you just maybe feeling tired, but if you just move your body, it's okay.
Yeah.
Or are we actually feeling really exhausted and we need to work from that space? But I've always training in his spaces, didn't really think twice about it, just was like, yeah, okay, we're jumping, whatever. And then he said it to me one day and I was like, it makes
Whoa.
so much sense. And I really I see it when I'm teaching, when I
Yeah.
have something like that versus when I don't do something like that. If the kids are feeling the sense of like, okay, it's the afternoon slump or whatever, and not even able like because it's also a lot to ask a kid to regulate all those things in like
Yeah. I
effort.
have kids on a Thursday for an hour and a half ballet class. A
Um,
Thursday. It's like the worst day to have. First thing.
yeah.
I'm like, oh God. And always they'll tell you the exact same thing. They're like, Thursday ballet. I'm like, yeah, I know, guys. Because
Yeah.
and I think also like being honest and open with your students is also and
Mhm.
challenging their curiosity is also very important, especially teaching like young adults. Eventually they're going to go to college and instead of being told what to do, I want them to ask for things and I want them to like, hey, can we do that again? Or I didn't quite get that. Like I am not one that's like they know that I will do a combination for them over and over and over again. If they're like, my brain is not functioning. I have no idea what your feet are doing. And I'm like, that's okay. That's okay. I'll do it again because I'm not forcing anything on them, but I want them to ask questions. I have people that are like, oh my God, people in my class are like, Kelly, I'm still gripping at my hip flexors when I do my grand ma. I can't turn it off. And for that thought to even process in their brain shows that I'm like, oh, let's go, Kelly. Okay, let's go. Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Yeah. Because
definitely.
it's very different. But also sometimes I'm like, guys, Harper's driving me nuts today. We're just in this space. And I was like, I'm just gonna need to rock out for a second and we're just gonna do these plies to some Taylor Swift or whatever else I need in my life. And they're like, okay, because we're
Mhm.
human and we all need that little bit of space.
And that it's an ecosystem that goes both ways and that it's not a one-sided thing.
Yeah.
It was really important and also made me think of if a dancer is in a space where their only access to training maybe is quite like regimented and maybe the sides of ballet that I feel make me lift my shoulders and panic.
All of a sudden really good.
Or not just ballet, like that can be any space. It's just that we're in that world right now, but like that we're talking about, but how it gives them the chance to still find a little bit of their own autonomy in that space. And I wonder if you have any other ways that you would invite someone like that. Like if they feel like, okay, I only have this one teacher in my town who teaches ballet and I really appreciate it, but I feel the panic and the stress. And how do I, as the individual in the room, invite myself to find a different approach or a way to feel more?
Yeah. I think a lot, I think I got that. Yeah. I think it is hard because then it kind of falls on you, right? Like you don't have the teacher to have that openness to they're not inviting you to do that. So then it becomes all on you. You have to reset your expectations and your boundaries and resetting expectations. That's what me and my therapist are working on right now. But like, what are you, and I tell this even to my kids, I'm like, what are two ways you can show up for this class right now? Is it you're going to nail every single combination? Is it that maybe I'm just going to point my toes? Maybe I'm just going to like be here and that's it. So I think invitation becomes self-reflective. It's like what am I going to do? What am I getting out of this class? What am I, do I need to jump around in the hallway before I go into class to reset my body, shake it off and come back into the space? Do I need a 30-minute warm up to just like reset my parasympathetic nervous system to go into that space, knowing that it's an sympathetic nervous system activator, right? Is that like, how do I need to do I need to just bring some bone broth into class with me? So I constantly have like a sipping tool, a physical, thing that's coming into my system to decrease my cortisol and my stress around this class, all about bone broth. But like it does come on you to do that and set those expectations of yourself, because if whether a teacher does that for you or not, no matter what, it still falls on you. It's just harder to show up for yourself and to advocate for yourself coming into that space of like, this
Mm,
is how I'm going to take this class, instead of, oh my God, I'm feeling like I have to take this way.
mm, mm. Yeah.
Way easier said than done. But
Just that there, it reminded me of the same idea of like putting on essential oils. Like it doesn't have to be big. It can be something small, and then that gives you the invitation to set up something that allows you to feel like you have that
yeah,
autonomy, that control, that power.
cover
And
yourself
then
in
once
essential
you
oils.
get into, yeah, and then you get into class and it's like, okay, now
Different.
it's my class rather than
Yeah.
like I am being
Yeah.
taken by the
Yeah.
by the trajectory of where this is going, which then I think even me just imagining myself in a scenario like that allows a shift in terms of not needing to go like, okay, how am I going to take every correction they say and change the language, but that it can go like
Yeah.
bit by little bit,
Yeah, I
which
think it naturally changes the expectation of I think
yeah.
it opens your curiosity as to how you could take that class. And all of a sudden, those ideas or those whatever it is about that class, all of a sudden doesn't exist because you feel more in control of taking that.
Yes. Control. Relate to that one. Yeah. Well, and even that kind of brings me into this conversation around like myofascial work and the conversation just in general around recovery alongside
Yeah.
seeking performance and what you have learned, or maybe just like what you're curious about yourself right now in terms of that space of like the duality between trying to encourage the recovery side of things alongside the performance side of things.
Yeah. I mean, being able to teach recovery now, um, and I have a class that doesn't dedicate themselves fully to recovery, I should say. And, me and the director are always like, I wish I had a class for recovery. Like, I wish someone taught me how to eat protein and what kind of smoothies I should drink before and after, and how to actually use a foam roller, and what does a lacrosse ball do, and why are my muscles so tight, or why do I feel like it takes me like 3 weeks to recover from a convention, because none of that is normal and it shouldn't be. And so I just kind of like tune into my younger self of like, if this was presented to me, what what would I be more curious about? Again, curiosity really is the golden ticket here. Um, because because as much as I preach it or talk about it or anything like that, they're also teenagers. So they're only going to take as much as they can. But when they send me a picture at convention and they have like their protein shake and I'm like, yes, and everyone brings their Theragun, I'm like, okay, let's go. Like those are like the mini tiny small wins. Will they still come in and complain to me that they're so sore and they can't blah blah blah? Yes, but there's pieces getting attached. They're understanding, and I have like this deep curiosity about fascia because I think it's just freaking mesmerizing, really. And like I was just reading an article about how like fascia is different for men and women, and like,
I saw your Instagram story and I was like,
oh
ah,
my
so
God,
I should,
Megan.
I should change my questions.
Don't even get me started. But because I do talk a lot about, teaching primarily to girls, that like, our cycle has a very big impact and what our hormones do, being a hormone specialist as well, is that like, we have a big period talk, and not just what it is, but also like hormonally, how does it change? How does it change our fascia? How does it change how we recover? How do we change how we show up for class? Like all of that is a cyclic thing for us. And the more that you know about it, the more that you can, one, better prepare, but also set yourself up for success instead of just dreading for that situation to come. And so they're starting, especially since I am able to offer like fascia release sessions, some one-on-one care, they're starting to understand like, wow, I feel fantastic after this. And I'm like, and I teach them how to do it onto each other. And like, this is how we can do if your muscles don't, move back and forth. And, there's all these like little tiny things. And, um, I don't want any of them to not choose movement or dance in some way because they're physically hurt, which is like, I
Yeah.
think very like, I don't want them to be like, I really don't want to go to college for dance because I just feel like my body can't keep up, or like I feel like that shouldn't be a thing. You have been dancing for at this point like 15 years. You have devoted, especially at the level that I teach, right? Is that like they are there 6, 7 days a week. They are doing conventions, they're doing it all. And for them to not want to pursue something or to actually physically stop something because they don't think that their body is going to be equipped to handle that. What? That
Yeah.
is just like mind blowing to me. Or to think that they just have to push through pain to succeed. Ugh,
Mm,
don't get me started. I think that drives me absolutely nuts. I'm like, your back still hurts. So why are you taking class right now? Don't come
yes.
tell me that your back hurts for the fifth week in a row and you just walked off a convention. Like,
Yeah.
like if you're thinking, so I do try and teach about, talk about longevity and what that looks like for your body. And do as of right now, I don't have any feelings in my toes. When I sit down for a long period of time, my sciatica is like through the roof and I want to chop off my leg. And luckily, my best friend is a dance PT, and she's like, I'm like, hey, I'm coming out of retirement. What does my hip look like in the future? And she's like, like, okay. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to know either. But that's also because I didn't take care of my body when I was younger. I just pushed through everything. I did all of that, and it hurts. It hurts sometimes. And you don't
In the
have to
conversation,
succeed.
like
Yeah.
even I was having this conversation with a dancer today around like the thing, and I was like, oh, I'm just seeing my younger self in a mirror right now. Like it is me. But we were talking about this to sit out now is a better choice than to sit out for a lot longer later.
Yeah,
But I know it feels like I'm asking you forever right now,
I
but it's
know.
actually
To them,
very
it feels like forever.
30.
It does. It does.
Yeah. And
And
like
I
that
think,
conversation.
yeah, I think also like at the age that I teach and at the level that I teach, they feel like not that how am I going to get any better or like I am I have some students that know that they're really good and feel that they need to continue to fill those shoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then I have a lot more questions about your mental health, but like that it shouldn't be a and or situation. It should always you should I don't know. It's hard because there's that mental aspect, especially yeah, that's why we had an entire mental health day because
Yeah.
I was like they put we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. It's in the dance world in general. We set really high expectations for ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves. Even if we're working with a team, it's a very solo sport where
Yeah.
we are in charge of our success. Which at a young age, success looks like being the best.
Yeah.
And that can't happen when you're injured or when you're sitting out. And so I get the mentality.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, what are you going to do in college in 2 years? And you have to have back surgery. Oh, well, okay, well then yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I'm
and
like,
this thing, like I remember feeling it, I definitely felt at that time that there was like this like impending doom of deadlines of like this is when I leave this building, that is who I am as a dancer forever after that. And
yeah,
like how good I am in that moment
yeah,
determines like everything going forward. And to shift that is a hard
it is hard.
thing, but like that actually you can't you won't
Yeah,
be there. You won't be
no,
dancing at that deadline if you keep working in the way that is fighting, like your body is
yeah, yeah,
fighting itself and going in opposite directions. And it will either be for the physical or the mental or both,
yeah,
or you'll lose the whole like whole point of it.
yeah.
Because
The
even
whole
I
point
was
of
explaining
moving.
it to a student today, I was like, "But what a," I said, like, what's your goal in this thing? Da, da, da. They listed a whole bunch of different great points,
Yeah,
great goals. And I was like, and where's the joy? And they were like, oh. Yeah, that's a good one too. And I was like, no, I
yeah,
know, but I know it's hard. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, and but like, how can we keep turning back to like the original intention or like what keeps you going and what is and then yeah, then there's the complexity of the conversation of like what is success to you in this part of your life and da
yeah,
da 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 da. But
yeah. I always, without a fail, at the beginning of the school year and about halfway through after winter break, I'll sit all of my classes down and I said, "Why do you dance?" Half of them can't answer the question,
yeah.
and they don't, and they also don't know, and
Yeah.
that's mind blowing. It's not mind blowing because if someone asked me that when I was 15 years old, I'd be like, because I'm good at it or because, I don't want to be somewhere else. So I'm here. And so there's, but I asked them, and I think again, having like, I really try and share my journey with my students. Like we did a mental health day and I was like, these are all the ways I talked about going to therapy. I talked about eating disorders, meant like all the things that I went through in my career and how I still deal with it now after having two kids and I still have body image issues and they're all tied to all of that.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I
Yep.
am
Yep.
very open about that conversation. And I think that was what like allowed that mental health day to be such a success was because it wasn't just it's also a mental health day for me. I'm here to talk about all the things that I want you guys to learn, but also that I experienced. Um, and so yeah, I think again, coming back to curiosity, challenging them to be curious about why they're here. And why you're dedicating so much time and space and energy and blood,
Yeah.
sweat, and tears, for lack of better things, to a thing that you don't know why you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to push them a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
You deserve the time to unpack that question.
Yeah.
And then from there to be able to work from a place that feels aligned for you. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, like, just curiosity, continue to ask them
Yeah.
questions is huge.
Yes.
What is this class giving you today? What does this piece mean to you? Not just what the choreographer wants it to mean. And how does this feel on your body? And how does that feel versus someone else's body? And no one's two bodies are the same. And so they're not going to look the same. And all of these other things of I have a very interactive class. I'm always like, okay, let's look at this person's tendus and why does this person's tendus look different from this person's? And we talk about the facility and their hips and all of this. And so should I make this person force their turnout if the facility and their hips doesn't work? And, I think continuing to ask them questions and allow them to be part of the class and not just to teach them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been having a really interesting experience. Yeah, selfishly, I would say. Um, in the sense that I'm working with some dancers right now on solos that are the competition structure that they're in. All of the students in the same age group have the same solo, but it's not choreographed by me, it's by choreographed by someone else. And so we have the explanation of the solo by the
Yeah.
choreographer, and then the dancer who performed it. And then that's the resource that you get ahead of the competition. And then I have like, two or three dancers each doing the same choreography and having a lot of conversations around like, what is the performer in the video like what is their flavor that's separate from
Yeah.
what the choreographer's intention is? What are the things that technically like that dancer is really achieving and we want to like grasp onto? And then equally like whereas maybe they're a human being too and we don't want to be like you can't, number one, you can't be the exact same person, but also whereas like there's human error and it's okay, and how can you then like separate that? And it's been a really interesting thing, I think, also to witness how then they're problem solving between each other, but then equally other times like trying to be like, no, you're doing it wrong. Just human, like we're all being human
Yeah.
in it. But
Yeah.
it's been a super fascinating experience for me to witness them all going through that process and then also trying to invite them into like, okay, and now we're close enough to set competition, it's yours. And you have
What
to,
does it look like?
yeah, like live in it, dance it, like find your version of the story because at the end of the day, that's why we watch people
Yeah.
dance. Like,
Yeah.
and just been such an interest. I've never worked in that structure before, and especially with younger ones,
Yeah.
rather than someone trying to understudy something where it's a different structure,
Yeah.
obviously. But yeah, super interesting to like invite them into those processes that maybe
Yeah.
I definitely didn't think about until I was much older. Uh,
Yeah. I feel like I've worked in the opposite
yeah,
world
yeah,
where coming down to a competition space out of New York
yeah,
where people eat, breathe, love, do what they do, and you can see it
yeah,
in
yeah,
the way that they take class and be like, wow, that person is just open their arms. And I feel like I've watched an entire 3 hour ballet and be
exactly.
mesmerized by someone, just their presence.
Yeah,
And I feel like in the competition world, it's so transactional. You go to a convention, you learn a combo, you're being critiqued or judged, or like that we lose the blood flow through the movement. We lose the face and joy where I the goddess that taught me how to jump through the air and land on the ground. To this day, if I take her class, I am just like in awe. Like she could be doing drop swings. And I'm like, oh my God, like I am so in awe, and it's really, and being in a space where Earl Mosley diversity of dance or He does a Hearts of Men where he has a whole men's group organization that is just dedicated to boys finding dance. And I can watch them on Instagram. And having been a part of that, I know but again, it's the person that brings it out in you. It's like Mr. Mosley brings that energy out. And I feel like in the competition space, unless you really latch onto someone, and someone actually talked about this in my mental health class, I was like, why is it so hard to sometimes be a dancer? And someone said, because our emotions are tied to it. And I was like, bingo. That's why it's really hard, like, and that person I can see, when she moves, I'm just like, there's just like this breath and length that happens to the arm that you're just like,
Yeah.
it's connecting there where you can't teach that. It's really hard to teach. And I can't be like, okay, extend through your fingertips, or like, do you feel your fingertips right now? Where are they? What's happening? Space. Like, are we breathing? Are we just like, and even when we are in a piece, it's just like, this is the movement. This is where I'm at. This is what I have to do. And
Yeah.
it doesn't, it lose. And I get, not that I get bored. I can watch my kids dance all day, but I'm also
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I
Yeah.
feel like I've seen this like
You're
50.
doing. Yeah.
When I know that you have the facility to just like, but I think it is like the vulnerability, the curiosity within the teachers that allows that space to be discovered.
Yeah.
It's because it's not something that's forced upon. You have to eat, breathe, love it.
Yeah.
That's why I changed the music. Even my audition, she was like, we were dancing to very technical, what were we listening to? Bach or something. And all of a sudden she was like, stop, and put on some Bowie. And we did the same combo to Bowie. And she was like, okay, now I'm going to put the other music on, but embody that as movers. And that's all yeah. But if it
And
wasn't for her, we
where,
would have all been stuck in that world.
yeah. Yeah. And yes, curiosity is gonna
That's
have to
it.
get
That's
something.
our word of the day. I don't know if your
Episode
podcast needs
two.
the word of the day.
Maybe it does. It's a really good idea.
Yeah.
But it also brought up this thought of just like where value is placed
Mm,
within what can feel like a checklist
yeah.
at times in something like dance, where it's this intersection between emotions and physicality and artistry and da 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 da. Da. But like, uh, yeah, with one of the dancers I've been working with recently, we were talking about that because I was saying like, I don't know what's happening in your fingertips right now. Do you know what's happening in your
Are
fingertips right
they
now?
there? Yeah.
But we were talking about it, and then they were like, "Yeah, but I don't want to mess up like the musicality." And I was like, "No, I get you." But at the same time, like,
Feel your fingertips.
yeah, but we were talking about like
Sorry.
as like yes, the judges are going to be watching with a certain lens in a competition space, but at the same time, the whole conversation around the competition judge who's been sat there all day long, and you never know when you're going to be in that day as well, and you don't want them to be bored watching you.
Yep.
But
Read
it's
space.
not just about that moment, but like it's much more about the big picture of like why do we dance and
Yeah.
all those things.
Yeah.
But if you place all of your focus on this one thing, like number one, the like if it goes wrong feels much heavier if that's the only thing you're focusing on. But then equally, is it achieving what you want it to be achieving?
Yeah.
Or is it because of something a stressor from the outside,
Mm.
making it feel like that's the most important thing when like what is the value to you? And yeah, okay. Also, yeah, I could go back and forth on the contradictions, but just it made me think as you were speaking of like how we can as a how as facilitators we can invite value to be placed in the spaces that maybe we feel are
Yeah.
the most aligned. Okay,
Yeah.
because I'm aware of time, I think we should shift to
Yeah.
the question from the previous guest,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is Shelley Kin, who is asking, can you recall a time in your personal or professional life when you chose to not listen to your gut instinct? And if so, do you regret that decision?
I was really thinking about this because times, especially as a mom now, you're like, trust your instinct. If your kid is sick or you hear something, you just trust your gut, just take them in. Like, it's 1 o'clock. Is my child like, can I hear him stirring? It's all about your gut feeling. Is my child feeling anxious today? Does it, um, and when it comes to dance, honestly, sometimes your gut gets you into trouble. If I trusted my gut, I probably wouldn't have gone to a Streb audition, because if my gut was like, hell no, you are not jumping from a trampoline, you are not landing on your face, you are not going to do this. But the curiosity in my brain and my gut were like, maybe go dabble around in this, and just see what comes of it. And so I never say that I regret any of the choices that I make. I just learn from them, which I feel is very cliche or whatever you want to call it. Um, but I always invite people to not always listen to their gut, but challenge their gut. Ask your
Mhm.
gut a question. Is it acting out of your best instinct, or is it out of, if we go back into fascia, is it, your muscle memory coming into play of like, oh, I don't want to do that because all of a sudden we're going into a ballet class and I don't want to be in that space. Then your gut would be like, oh, hell no, girl, we're not going back into that. But maybe you need to go into that space to push yourself out of it. And I think if I was to read this, I read a lot of these yesterday going into my audition, and I was like, wow, I'm in a very different headspace. Where, 2 seconds before that audition, I was like, oh no, this is stupid. I'm too old for this. My hip already hurts. My gut was like, nah, Kelly, like you have 2 kids at home. How are you going to do these rehearsals? Blah, blah, blah. And then part of me was just had to be like, no, no, I'm going to challenge this and invite myself to do this in a different space, in a different way, in a different,
Mm.
yeah. So gut instinct, I feel like, is a very, it's a challenge. I
Yeah.
do think that we should listen to it, but doesn't mean that we can't challenge it.
It feels like it brings up this someone pointed out to me that I've been very interested in nervous systems right now.
Oh, well, don't get me
But it
started on
feels
that
like yeah, I
conversation.
know I'm like, oh, it's a whole thing, but like feels like it brings up a conversation around like nervous system in terms of the duality
Hmm.
between instinct out of interest versus instinct out of panic,
Yeah,
like when your nervous system is relaxed versus like excited and
yeah,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think
All the directions that could
also,
take.
yeah, also the gut is the brain of the internal system.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, the gut, I mean, if you're not taking care of your gut and then it's telling you things and you don't want, there's
You don't
and
want to
not just
listen.
gut as in like making sure you're drinking your bone broth, but also like,
Yeah.
if you have past trauma or if you're holding things, your gut is going to react differently, especially as movers and especially as dancers. That muscle memory, and I think we hold on to things a lot harder because we are, one, so in tune with our muscles and our body, but also because I feel like sometimes we're really out of touch with it because we've used it as a tool. Yeah, not necessarily as a body.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The opposition of the requests that we make on ourselves. Um,
Yeah, yeah. It's weird. It's weird.
Super interesting though. And I feel like now I need to like have my own little blip in time where I can just go research everything for a few hours.
I'll send you some things.
Yeah, I would love to. Would love to read, but thank you so much
Oh no,
for
this is great.
all of it. Uh, like it's been such a pleasure just to talk about everything, but I think specifically like what I feel leaving the episode is just this gratitude for souls like yours in the movement and dance world. Uh, and this idea that it's all an ongoing discovery, and curiosity is definitely the word of the day.
It really is. It really is. I challenge educators to be curious about their students and how to drive curiosity in your classrooms. I challenge students to be curious about their own bodies and movement. And um, I think that's what really drives us in I don't want to say better direction, but I think when we stop asking questions, we stop learning. And whether it's dance or not, that's not
Yeah.
it's not fun.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of season 2 of Conversations for the Moving Self. If you've been here since the beginning, thank you so much for tuning in again. And if you're just joining now in the past couple episodes, I really wanted to say a big thank you for taking some time to listen, to hear these incredible conversations with some really important people to me. This podcast is a passion project and something I feel really, really excited about, but we can only continue to do it with your support. I invite you to follow, subscribe, like, and comment. Please share the podcast with any other listeners that you think might be interested. And if you have any reflections, please, please, please comment them down below. Super excited to be sharing these all with you and looking forward to the rest of the season. Thank you so much from CMS. Lots of love.